Harrison's body camera recorded him staring straight ahead. Not at Dr. Chen, not at Martinez, not at the evidence in the basement visible in the frame. Just straight ahead, his expression unreadable and his professional mask firmly in place. His hands unclenching slowly and deliberately, his jaw loosening. The moment where he could have apologized, could have acknowledged the error and the harm, could have shown basic humanity and professionalism, stretched across several seconds captured in perfect detail by his own equipment recording continuously. "Uncuff him," Harrison said finally, his voice flat and without inflection. The body camera recorded Officer Klein moving forward without hesitation, understanding the order, pulling out keys from his belt, releasing the handcuffs from Dr. Chen's wrists with professional efficiency. The metal clicked open. The restraints fell away, leaving red marks on Dr. Chen's wrists as evidence of the false arrest. That's when Dr. Chen spoke directly to the cameras with calm authority. All 3 body cameras were recording simultaneously. All 3 microphones captured his words with perfect audio clarity and without any interruption. "My name is Dr. Michael Chen. I am a special agent with the Department of Homeland Security Investigations. I was born in Seattle, Washington, on July 8, 1981. I have never been arrested. I have never committed a crime. I have never violated the law." Detective James Harrison, badge number 4847, responded to a call at my residence at 4:47 p.m. on March 21st of this year. When I answered the door, I was actively preventing a gas leak that posed immediate danger to my family and my neighbors. I explained this to Detective Harrison. I offered to show him my federal credentials without hesitation. I stated clearly that I lived in this house and was performing emergency safety work. Detective Harrison dismissed my explanation without verification. He ordered me to the ground without asking questions. He handcuffed me for saving lives. And the entire time, his body camera was recording the truth of what happened here. This recording shows that I committed no crime. This recording shows that I was performing lawful emergency safety work in my own home. This recording shows that I was arrested based on assumptions about my appearance, rather than on any facts or evidence of wrongdoing. The footage captured Dr. Chen's composure and dignity. His composure maintained perfectly even in the moment of violation and humiliation. The cameras recorded this statement with perfect fidelity. Every word, every gesture, every moment of injustice documented permanently by the very equipment meant to protect the officer from false accusations. Dr. Chen's children, watching from inside the house where his wife had kept them safe during the confrontation, would later describe the moment their father stood on the porch and spoke truth directly to the cameras. Harrison stood motionless after the statement concluded. The body camera recorded him standing there, his face turned slightly away from Dr. Chen. He did not apologize. He did not acknowledge the harm caused. He simply walked to his patrol car, still recording, and stood there silently while the gas company technician, arriving at that precise moment in an unmarked service van, rushed into the house to complete the meter disconnection and seal the leak permanently. The gas company technician, arriving at 4:52 p.m., assessed the situation with professional expertise and concern. The leak was real and active. The danger was imminent and genuine. Had Dr. Chen not disconnected the meter when he did, the accumulation of natural gas in the basement would have reached explosive levels within approximately 15 minutes based on the volume and concentration of mercaptan in the air. The technician's calculations, later documented in his official incident report filed with the gas company and provided to investigators, showed that the explosion risk was substantial and genuine. The technician confirmed that Dr. Chen's work had been expert, professional, and had almost certainly prevented an explosion that would have destroyed the house completely, killed everyone inside, and potentially damaged neighboring properties and endangered neighbors' lives in the immediate vicinity. What Harrison didn't realize as he stood there in the afternoon sun, his body camera still recording and transmitting data, was that his equipment had captured everything with perfect fidelity. The false arrest without probable cause. The dismissal of a federal agent's identification and explanations without verification, the threat of force against a person performing lawful emergency work, the moment of realization when evidence contradicted his assumptions, all recorded in high-definition video with crystal-clear audio from his own chest-mounted device, all preserved automatically to the department's secure encrypted servers at the moment of recording completion. 3 days later, Dr. Chen filed a formal complaint with the Denver Police Department's Internal Affairs Division with detailed documentation. He included a detailed written account and a formal request for the body camera footage. Within 48 hours, following department protocol, he had obtained copies of all 3 cameras' recordings. Harrison's, Martinez's, and Klein's complete footage. The footage was devastating to the department's potential defense. It showed no criminal activity whatsoever on the premises. It showed no resistance or aggressive behavior from Dr. Chen at any point. It showed a citizen performing emergency safety work who had been handcuffed and arrested based solely on Detective Harrison's assumptions about his appearance and the circumstances. Dr. Chen contacted the American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado within 1 week of his arrest. The attorney who took his case, Rebecca Vasquez, with 22 years of civil rights litigation experience and a track record of successfully prosecuting police misconduct cases against major departments, listened to the story and watched the body camera footage with visible anger and professional concern. "This is one of the clearest cases I've seen in 2 decades of practice," Vasquez said after reviewing all documentation. "Your own camera proves everything completely. The false arrest without probable cause, the racial profiling evident in the officer's assumptions, the dismissal of your federal credentials and explanations based on appearance alone. This is textbook discrimination captured on video." Federal civil rights investigators opened a formal case within 2 weeks of Dr. Chen's complaint filing. The investigation revealed that Dr. Chen was not Harrison's first victim, or even his most recent. A comprehensive review of Harrison's body camera footage from home investigations over the previous 4 years showed a troubling pattern that shocked investigators. Of the 63 home security calls Harrison had responded to, 58 involved complaints about black residents. The footage showed Harrison consistently approaching these homes with preconceived conclusions about guilt, dismissing explanations from residents, and in many cases arresting residents for what turned out to be completely lawful activity protected by law. In one documented case that emerged during investigation, a black surgeon had been handcuffed at his own home for suspicious activity that turned out to be him installing a professional home security system on a Saturday afternoon. In another case discovered during the comprehensive review, a black attorney had been arrested for breaking and entering her own home after accidentally locking her keys inside and using a window to regain entry to her own residence. In a third case uncovered by investigators, a black professor had been arrested for trespassing on his own property after a neighbor called about someone working in the backyard. That someone was the professor, doing yard work on his own land on a Saturday afternoon. Internal emails were obtained through formal discovery process and FOIA requests filed by civil rights organizations. In one email, Harrison's supervisor, Lieutenant Thomas Brewster, had written to his commanding officer, "Harrison has strong community policing instincts. He's not afraid to respond aggressively to suspicious activity in residential areas. We support his initiative in preventing break-ins and protecting neighborhood safety." Another email from Harrison to his supervisor contained the phrase, "Need to maintain neighborhood standards by staying alert to activity that doesn't match residential profiles." The investigation expanded significantly and systematically. Investigators discovered that in another case involving similar circumstances, a white gas company technician had been called to a similar home security complaint at a home in the same neighborhood. That officer had immediately apologized when the technician explained his professional purpose and equipment. There was no arrest, no handcuffing, no humiliation, no threat of charges or legal consequences. The Department of Justice opened a comprehensive federal investigation into whether Detective Harrison's actions constituted a pattern and practice of discrimination in violation of federal civil rights statutes. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Body camera footage from multiple incidents showing consistent racial targeting across all cases. Comparative statistics showing disparate treatment based on race across hundreds of data points. Internal department communications showing awareness of Harrison's targeting behavior without correction, intervention, or disciplinary action being taken. Statistical analysis of arrest and detention rates demonstrated racial disparity that was mathematically impossible to occur by random chance or legitimate law enforcement reasons. Federal prosecutors, working with civil rights specialists from the DOJ Civil Rights Division, determined there was probable cause to believe Detective James Harrison had engaged in violations of 18 U.S.C. Section 241, conspiracy to deprive civil rights, and 18 U.S.C. Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. The federal grand jury returned a 12-count indictment. Harrison was arrested at his home 8 months after the incident at Dr. Chen's residence. The federal trial began 18 months after the arrest. The courtroom was packed every single day throughout the trial with standing room only. Civil rights advocates, members of Denver's black community, federal law enforcement officials, national media representatives, and concerned citizens filled every seat and lined the hallway outside the courtroom. The prosecution presented Harrison's body camera footage first thing. The jury watched from Harrison's own perspective as he arrived at Dr. Chen's home, saw a black man in the doorway, and immediately assumed criminal activity without any investigation or verification. The footage showed Dr. Chen calmly explaining the gas leak in detail. It showed Harrison's dismissive response without verification or questions. It showed the moment Martinez discovered clear evidence of legitimate professional work. It showed Harrison's realization followed immediately by his refusal to apologize or acknowledge error or communicate any recognition of harm caused. Prosecutors then presented footage from the other cases systematically. The pattern was unmistakable and indefensible. A black resident, a call about suspicious activity, Harrison's immediate assumption of guilt without investigation, arrest or threats of arrest. Later, definitive proof that the resident had been doing something completely lawful and protected by law. The gas company technician testified about the genuineness of the leak and Dr. Chen's expert work. He knew exactly what he was doing, the technician stated under oath. That leak was real. The danger was immediate and real and serious. Dr. Chen's actions almost certainly prevented a catastrophic explosion that would have killed people and destroyed property. A statistical expert testified about Harrison's enforcement pattern over the 4-year period. Of 63 home investigations, 58 involved black residents. Of those 58 cases involving black residents, 47 resulted in arrest or detention. Of 38 cases involving white residents, 3 resulted in arrest or detention. The disparity was statistically impossible to occur by random chance or legitimate law enforcement reasons. Dr. Chen testified for nearly 4 hours under direct examination. He described his work for Homeland Security protecting the nation, his 20-year career in federal service, his efforts to keep his family safe. He described the moment he realized the officer would not listen, would not verify his federal credentials, would not check his own house's documents to confirm ownership. He described the humiliation of being handcuffed in front of his children. "I was handcuffed in front of my children because I was trying to save their lives," Dr. Chen said, his voice steady but carrying profound sadness and controlled anger. "The officer never asked to see my identification. He never verified that I owned the house. He never asked a single question to confirm or deny his assumptions. He saw a black man doing something he didn't understand, and he arrested me." The jury deliberated for 4 days, asking for multiple viewings of the body camera footage to verify their understanding of events. When they returned, the verdict was guilty on multiple counts of deprivation of rights under color of law under 18 U.S.C. Section 242. The federal judge, sentencing Harrison under guidelines that accounted for multiple victims and systematic abuse of authority, imposed a sentence of 4 years and 6 months in federal prison. Additionally, Harrison was ordered to pay restitution to all 46 other victims of his pattern of discrimination. The civil rights lawsuit filed by Dr. Chen proceeded separately against Detective Harrison individually, his supervisor Lieutenant Thomas Brewster, and the City of Denver for civil rights violations, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and systemic discrimination. Harrison's own body camera footage made settlement negotiations brief and one-sided. The city's attorneys knew that the video was indefensible in front of a jury. A jury watching Harrison handcuff a federal agent for stopping a gas leak that saved lives would award massive damages without hesitation. The case settled for $9.2 million plus comprehensive reforms mandated by formal consent decree. The Denver Police Department was required to implement mandatory implicit bias training with annual recertification, complete body camera review protocols for all home security calls with civilian oversight board review authority, demographic data collection on all home investigations with public monthly reporting, investigation of all prior complaints against Harrison and officers with similar patterns, mandatory verification procedures before arrest, including property records checks and telephone verification of ownership, a zero-tolerance policy for dismissing residents' explanations and rights assertions without investigation, retraining for all officers on constitutional law regarding search and seizure in residential settings, and establishment of a community advisory board with real authority and power to investigate complaints. The settlement allocated $1.4 million to contact and compensate the other 46 victims of Harrison's documented pattern of racial profiling. Each victim received compensation ranging from $50,000 to $150,000 based on the severity of their experience, received formal written apologies from the department, and received offers of counseling services. Dr. Chen used a substantial portion of his settlement to establish the Chen Martinez Safe Neighborhoods Fund, named after Officer Martinez, whose professionalism and integrity had helped expose Harrison's misconduct and prevent similar future violations. The fund provided pro bono legal representation to people arrested in their own homes and grants to organizations working to prevent wrongful home invasions based on racial profiling. Dr. Chen became a national voice on police accountability and constitutional rights. He testified before Congress about his experience and the systemic pattern it represented. He spoke at law enforcement training seminars about the importance of verification procedures and the costs of racial profiling to communities and individuals. His body camera footage became required viewing in federal law enforcement training programs and in law schools across the country as an example of how discrimination can be captured by the very equipment meant to protect both citizens and officers. Officer Martinez, whose integrity had exposed Harrison's misconduct, was promoted to supervisor and tasked with implementing the department's new policies and training protocols. He became known nationally as an example of how officers of conscience could stand against discrimination. The irony wasn't lost on legal experts and civil rights advocates. Detective Harrison had activated his body camera following department policy, confident that he was responding to a legitimate complaint, confident that his judgment was correct. That body camera, meant to protect officers from false accusations, instead became the irrefutable documentation of his systematic discrimination. His own equipment recorded his bias, his refusal to verify facts, his immediate assumption based on race, his dismissal of a federal agent's credentials and explanations based solely on appearance. The lesson was unmistakable and powerful. Body cameras work both ways. They protect officers who act professionally and in accordance with law, but they also document officers who abuse their authority. And when an officer's own body camera captures him handcuffing a federal agent who was saving lives, there is no defense, no excuse, no narrative that can overcome the evidence preserved in perfect detail. Detective James Harrison walked into a home expecting to arrest a criminal. He forgot in his rush to enforce his biases that his body camera was recording everything. His 19-year career ended in federal prison, brought down by the very device meant to protect him. His supervisor was fired for enabling the pattern. His department was forced into comprehensive reform, addressing decades of unchecked discrimination. 46 other victims received compensation and recognition that their civil rights had been violated. Dr. Michael Chen answered his door to protect his family from a gas leak. He experienced discrimination and false arrest. But Dr. Chen's dignity, captured on multiple body cameras, and his federal credentials and expertise ultimately proved the truth. And that truth changed not just his own life, but created systemic change across an entire police department and influenced federal law enforcement training nationwide. If you believe police officers who selectively enforce the law based on race deserve federal prosecution, that body cameras must have real accountability regardless of an officer's tenure or reputation, and that federal agents deserve the same constitutional protections as every American citizen, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because tomorrow we have another story of how technology meant to protect can expose injustice, and how truth, when recorded and proven beyond doubt, has the power to change entire systems and protect communities from discrimination for generations to come. Detective James Harrison thought he was responding to a routine call. As a patrol officer for the Denver Police Department for 19 years, he'd handled thousands of calls about suspicious activity in residential neighborhoods across the city's diverse communities. But when dispatch radioed about a possible break-in at 4847 Ashland Avenue in the Cheeseman Park District, with a neighbor reporting suspicious activity and sounds of forced entry at 4:45 p.m. on Thursday, March 21st, Harrison responded with the urgency the call demanded. He activated his lights and siren, covering the 3.2 miles to the address in under 5 minutes, his mind already constructing a narrative about what he would find. What he didn't know, what he'd completely forgotten in his rush to apprehend what he assumed was a criminal, was that his department-issued body camera was recording everything, every word he spoke, every gesture he made, every decision that would follow. The very device meant to protect officers from false accusations would become the evidence that destroyed his career and cost the city of Denver $9.2 million. The body camera, model Axon Body 3, activated at 4:47 p.m. and recording at 1080p resolution with 160-degree field of view, would preserve every moment of what came next with crystalline clarity and undeniable precision. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Detective James Harrison had been with the Denver Police Department for 19 years, building what his supervisors called a solid record of aggressive response policing and community protection in high-crime areas. But beneath that reputation lay 41 formal complaints over 17 years from citizens alleging racial profiling and excessive force during traffic stops and home investigations. Each complaint had been reviewed by Internal Affairs and dismissed as unsubstantiated or justified by suspicious circumstances. Harrison had learned that as long as he claimed to be responding to legitimate citizen reports or suspicious activity, his department would protect him from accountability. His supervisor, Lieutenant Thomas Brewster, had written in performance reviews that Harrison had strong instincts about neighborhood threats and doesn't hesitate to take action when intervention is needed. The Denver Police Department had implemented mandatory body cameras 4 years earlier after a series of officer-involved shootings and misconduct allegations that had resulted in $3 million in settlements paid to victims and their families. Officers were required to activate their cameras for all calls for service, all traffic stops, and all enforcement actions. The policy was explicit and unambiguous. Failure to activate body cameras could result in immediate disciplinary action and potential termination from the department. Yet in practice, officers sometimes claimed devices malfunctioned at critical moments or forgot activation procedures during high-stress situations. Harrison himself had failed to activate his camera on at least 18 documented occasions over the past 4 years, always during interactions that later resulted in complaints from citizens who felt they had been treated unfairly. Internal Affairs had noted the pattern in their files but had taken no action against him. But on this Thursday afternoon in March, whether out of habit or confidence in his authority, Harrison activated his body camera when he exited his patrol car at 4:47 p.m. That decision would prove to be his downfall. Dr. Michael Chen, 43, was a Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent at the Department of Homeland Security Field Office in Denver, with a security clearance level of TS/SCI, top secret sensitive compartmented information, that gave him access to the nation's most sensitive security information. His expertise lay in national security threats and critical infrastructure protection, particularly vulnerabilities in gas distribution systems and energy facilities that terrorists might exploit. He had served in federal law enforcement for 20 years, working counterintelligence operations and preventing domestic terrorist threats to critical infrastructure across multiple states. His wife, Dr. Sarah Chen, 41, was an emergency room physician at Denver Health Medical Center, one of the region's largest trauma centers, where she saved lives on a daily basis treating gunshot wounds and severe injuries. They lived in the Cheeseman Park neighborhood, an upscale area known for its professional residents, tree-lined streets, and 19th-century Victorian homes valued between $1 and $2 million. They were raising their daughter, Emma, 11, and their son, James, 8, with an emphasis on education, civic responsibility, and integrity. The afternoon had started normally and peacefully. Dr. Chen had worked from home in his secure office, reviewing classified documents related to critical infrastructure vulnerabilities and potential terrorist threats to gas distribution systems. At 4:15 p.m., he noticed an unusual smell permeating the second floor of the house. Natural gas has no odor inherently, but utilities add mercaptan, a chemical compound with a distinctive rotten egg smell that alerts people to leaks and potential danger in residential and commercial settings. Dr. Chen recognized the smell immediately from his professional training. It was coming from the basement, growing stronger with each passing minute as the leak accelerated. He checked the thermostat's gas detection readout. The reading showed dangerous levels of natural gas accumulating in the basement, levels that exceeded safe thresholds established by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. A leak of this magnitude could explode with minimal ignition source, a spark from electrical equipment, a lighter, the heat from the furnace itself, the water heater pilot light. Even static electricity from walking across carpeted areas could potentially trigger an explosion. Dr. Chen called the gas company immediately at 4:22 p.m., speaking with a dispatcher who documented the call. The dispatcher told him the nearest technician was 35 minutes away under normal conditions, with current traffic conditions and route availability potentially extending that to 45 minutes or longer. With 4 people in the house and gas levels rising exponentially by the minute, he couldn't wait. He needed to find and stop the leak himself using his professional knowledge. Dr. Chen grabbed his professional tools, a precision wrench set, a gas leak detector, specialized equipment he kept for emergencies exactly like this one, descended into the basement with careful movements, and located the main gas meter mounted on the exterior wall. The connection showed visible corrosion from years of exposure and a small but active leak, creating a steady hissing sound that was audible and alarming. He began carefully disconnecting the meter from the house supply line to stop the flow of gas into the structure. This required removing 4 bolts in precise sequence and carefully maneuvering the meter away from the connection point without disturbing the corroded pipes. The work was delicate and required concentration. One wrong move could increase the leak or create a dangerous spark. He was halfway through the process, his hands covered in grease and residue from the corroded connection, when he heard the doorbell, then pounding on the front door. Heavy, urgent pounding that communicated authority and threat. "This is the Denver Police Department. Open this door immediately. We have a report of a break-in in progress." Dr. Chen's hands trembled from the adrenaline surge. He was holding a wrench, covered in dirt from the basement work, with a gas meter partially disconnected beside him and tools scattered on the steps. He was wearing casual work clothes, jeans and a faded t-shirt, not his federal credentials or any indication of his professional status. He realized instantly how this must look to someone who didn't know what was happening. He realized how his appearance, combined with the circumstances, might be interpreted by someone arriving with preconceived assumptions. He climbed the basement stairs quickly, moving with purpose, and opened the front door to explain, his hands raised instinctively in a gesture of non-aggression and compliance. Standing on the porch was Detective Harrison, his hand resting deliberately on his duty belt, his posture radiating aggression and authority. Behind him were 2 uniformed patrol officers, Officer Marcus Martinez, a 7-year veteran with a reputation for professionalism, and Officer David Klein, a 3-year officer still learning departmental culture. Harrison's body camera, activated and recording from his chest at 4:47 p.m., captured the scene in high definition with perfect audio. The camera showed the open basement door visible behind Dr. Chen. Tools scattered on the basement steps in clear view. The gas meter visible in the background with disconnected piping and corroded connections. The hissing sound of the active gas leak, distinctly audible on the body camera's sensitive microphone. "Sir, step away from that meter right now," Harrison commanded, his voice captured with perfect clarity on the body camera's audio feed. "I need you to come out of the house with your hands visible, now. Step toward me slowly, Doctor." Chen stepped onto the porch, his hands raised higher, his voice calm but conveying the urgency of the situation. "Officer, I live here. I own this property. I'm stopping a gas leak that could kill my family and damage the neighborhood. The gas company dispatcher told me it would take 35 minutes to arrive. I'm performing emergency safety work in my own home." The body camera recorded Harrison's eyes moving away from Dr. Chen almost immediately, his gaze fixed on the basement beyond. The tools, the meter, the disconnected piping, the evidence of legitimate work. Harrison stepped forward with deliberate intent, positioning himself between Dr. Chen and the doorway, his body language communicating aggression and certainty in his judgment. "Get on the ground, now," Harrison said, his tone hardening further with each word. The camera captured his hand moving toward his handcuffs with practiced efficiency born from 19 years of making arrests. "You're under arrest for breaking and entering into this residential property. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "Officer, this is my house. I have a driver's license upstairs in my office. I can show you my identification. I own this property. I have mortgage documents, property deeds, utility bills in my name," Dr. Chen said, his voice steady but showing strain beneath the words. The body camera microphone picked up the tremor, the tension, the confusion and frustration of being misunderstood. "Please, I need to finish disconnecting that meter. There's a dangerous gas leak. There are lives at risk. My family is inside. My children are inside." "Ma'am, if you don't comply, I will use force," Harrison said, a significant misidentification that would later be highlighted in discovery and would evidence his assumptions and inattentiveness. The camera captured him reaching for Dr. Chen's arm with deliberate force, his grip firm and commanding. "You need to get on the ground right now or you're going to be charged with resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer." The body camera recorded Dr. Chen stepping back, his hands still raised high, his voice becoming more urgent and strained. "I'm not resisting. I'm not assaulting anyone. I'm an American citizen. I'm a federal agent. I work for Homeland Security Investigations. My badge is upstairs in my office. My credentials are in my desk. Please, officer, you need to understand. There is an active gas leak that poses danger to everyone in this neighborhood. People could be hurt. My family could be hurt." The footage showed Harrison's jaw tightening visibly, his eyes narrowing with determination, the dismissal flickering across his face like a decision already made. He'd heard claims before from people being arrested. Everyone claimed something when they were being arrested. Everyone had an explanation or excuse. The body camera captured his posture becoming more aggressive as Officer Martinez moved toward the basement stairway, descending into the house with growing concern. "Officer Martinez, get down there and check it out," Harrison commanded, keeping his gaze fixed on Dr. Chen with visible contempt and certainty. The camera recorded the moment of decision, the moment when Harrison could have paused, could have verified the claim, could have asked for identification, could have checked the house's documents to confirm ownership. Instead, he doubled down on his assumptions and his initial judgment. "Sir, I'm going to ask you one more time. Get on the ground or I will take you down. Do not test me. Do not make this harder than it needs to be," Harrison said. The body camera's microphone captured the threat with perfect clarity, every inflection, every note of aggression and threat. "You can tell your story to the detective at the station. Right now you're going to the ground. You're going to comply." The camera recorded Dr. Chen's facial expression shifting subtly, the shock giving way to something else entirely. Clarity. Recognition that this officer had already decided what was true, had already determined guilt, had already committed to an arrest narrative regardless of facts or evidence. The footage showed Dr. Chen lowering himself to the ground with careful deliberation, his hands behind his head, his eyes closing briefly as Officer Klein moved forward to apply handcuffs with efficiency and without hesitation. That's when Officer Martinez's voice came from inside the house, audible and urgent on all three body cameras, Harrison's, Klein's, and Martinez's own. "Detective Harrison, you need to see this. You need to see this right now. This is real." The body camera's view bounced and shifted as Harrison moved toward the house with sudden urgency, leaving Officer Klein standing over Dr. Chen on the ground in handcuffs. The footage showed the basement revealed in harsh detail under the fluorescent lighting fixtures. The gas meter with its severely corroded connection showing age and neglect. The active leak visible as a thin stream of vapor and audible as a distinct hissing sound. The specialized equipment Dr. Chen had used to diagnose the problem. Equipment clearly designed for professional gas system work and maintenance. A professional-grade leak detector. A calibrated precision wrench set. Professional quality tools that indicated expertise and knowledge. Martinez's camera recorded his own confusion and realization. "That leak is active. That's real. That's definitely real," he said with visible concern evident in his voice and posture. "And look at this." The footage showed Martinez examining the meter box with growing understanding. Professional work. Expert disconnection procedure executed with care and precision. Nothing whatsoever consistent with someone breaking in to steal or vandalize or cause damage. This is a professional gas system disconnection in progress. This person knows what they're doing. This person knows exactly what they're doing. Harrison's body camera recorded him standing in the basement, staring at the evidence of Dr. Chen's work with dawning realization. The camera captured his hands clenching involuntarily, his jaw working beneath his skin, the moment of realization playing across his face as he processed the evidence contradicting his assumptions and his snap judgment, the professional tools arranged with care, the proper disconnection procedure being followed precisely, the genuine danger posed by the leak confirmed by the visible vapor and audible hissing sound. But that's when everything changed. Harrison's body camera recorded him turning and climbing back up the basement stairs with deliberate speed and purpose. The footage showed him walking toward where Dr. Chen was still on the ground in handcuffs, still in custody, still positioned and treated as a criminal. The camera captured Dr. Chen's face as Harrison approached, captured the confusion in his eyes as he waited for what came next, wondering whether this was the moment of acknowledgement or further escalation. "Dr. Chen, stand up," Harrison said, his tone unchanged from before, still commanding, still superior, still refusing to acknowledge error or show any recognition of the fundamental mistake he had made. The body camera recorded Dr. Chen rising to his feet with Officer Klein's assistance, his wrists still bearing red marks from the handcuffs, his hands still positioned as ordered by the officers. "Where's your federal ID? Where are your credentials? Show me." "In my office upstairs. My badge, my Homeland Security credentials, my security clearance documentation, everything is upstairs," Dr. Chen said, his voice steady now and controlled, professional despite the violation and humiliation he had experienced. "Officer, I need to tell you what's happening here. My house's gas system has a critical leak that could have caused an explosion. I was in the middle of disconnecting the meter to stop the flow of gas when you arrived. The leak is real. The danger is real. The gas company is 15 minutes away." The body camera recorded Martinez emerging from the basement with visible haste, his own camera capturing his face in detail. The realization on his features was undeniable and visible in full clarity. He looked at Harrison with something between disappointment and concern. He looked at Dr. Chen with a new awareness of what had just occurred. He looked at the scattered tools and open basement door and the corroded meter connection visible in the background of the frame. "Detective, that's a real leak," Martinez said quietly and carefully. The body camera microphone captured the words with painful clarity, the tone communicating what he couldn't say directly: that an error had been made, that an innocent person had been arrested, that the officer had acted on assumptions rather than facts, that professionalism required acknowledgement. Professional disconnection in progress. This is legitimate work. This is exactly what it looks like.